In this episode, Luke and I have a meal,
We chat about radios being more expensive than cars.
and we chat about jets flying over forest. This
is on the overrun. Good day, people, and welcome back to this is episode 11.
This is episode 11. Another day, another guest.
Another guest. We promised you guest, and we are sticking to that commitment.
Oh.
Welcome back to episode 11. We are sitting here in a
household.
We are in the midst of what I wanted to say is probably a dream garage for any car guy. I mean, this setup here behind us is fantastic. We are joined by the podcast butcher, Richard Urisohn. He's an absolute legend. He's allowed us into this man cave or workshop or what?
Man cave is behind.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
So
I saw some dumbbells and workout
but
rigs.
there's a bit of a workshop going there as
is
well.
it? But just the space. Thank you so much for having
it is
us
a
today.
privilege.
I mean, this is amazing.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
And this will be my first podcast that I butcher. My first one ever.
Start of many guys.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun.
Yeah.
I can generally talk about cars for some period of time.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Another guest, our visitor. What is the visitor's name?
This is Coco.
This is Coco.
Welcome, Coco.
Okay, Coco is also welcome on this podcast.
We're lucky the big boy is in here because then everything would just be crashing all over the place. But
Yes.
anyway, he'll be
It'll
back.
been done.
I mean,
Right.
this like snacks and everything you see, it won't be here if the big brother was here. But yeah, I mean, Coco, you are welcome. You probably don't have the car history that your dad does, but that is also fine. I mean, you can add some character to the podcast, which is something we lack, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have.
Brother's not here, so she's a bit needy at the moment.
Yeah.
Because that's why she's all over me now.
That's also fine.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I'm sure the viewers are appreciating it.
Yeah. No,
Generally
definitely.
speaking, I regard her as my wife's dog, and my dog's unfortunately had an operation yesterday. But
That's
don't want to
it.
discriminate against poodles or whatever they are.
If that's not a reason to
But she's
comment
actually-
and share some love,
We will talk
what is?
about cars eventually, but she's actually a very good watchdog.
Okay.
Much
no.
better than the big boy he watches food. He's interested in that.
But he doesn't watch.
Doesn't
what
get up.
outside.
He doesn't get up for much more. He's not really interested.
Yeah.
And with the snap of my fingers, we have more food, a spillage on the floor. The dog is not here anymore.
Edit the comedy out.
No,
or
no,
do you-
no,
We'll show some.
You'll-
No,
Oh,
there's a lot of
okay.
I
comments.
just want to check.
No,
Okay.
no. That'll
We aren't.
Because there might be more. You never know.
Exactly,
It's
I mean, it's-
possible.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is our intro. We won't be taking away from this.
That was
I
absolutely
just also want
perfect.
to point out and establish that this also happens on Top Gear. This also happens on any YouTube channel. I mean, these kind of stuff, we just don't hide it because we know we are human. Like,
We
we
are
do make
human,
mistakes.
exactly.
And this is like, why do you laugh at us? Is because we make these kind of mistakes. You know, we aren't professionals. We're not trying to be. We're trying to enjoy cars, enjoy conversation.
And the good thing is you don't just have to laugh at us on YouTube. You can laugh at us on SoundCloud and on
Spotify,
Podcast,
Apple Music.
all
There's
the
a
other
lot of
stuff.
platforms you can laugh at us for.
exactly. So
And the thing is, if we butcher it once, we butcher it everywhere.
exactly.
That's
I mean,
the power of
you
multiplication.
can't just cut something once. You have to process the whole thing.
Yes,
and
that's the thing.
get
So
it
if it shows on
sorted,
Spotify, it shows on YouTube.
yes. There
But
you go. Anyway.
so just to quick mention of the obligatory social media. Oh, I know.
Boo.
But we are very active on our social media and we'd really like to interact with you. If you have any ideas, any comments, the other day I got roasted for something I posted on Instagram, which is also fine. That is how I learn.
And I got roasted by a previous guest, so this is common occurrence.
So
now.
it's just, one or two
feel
on
free
another.
to take
Are
any
you
jabs
just
at us.
chucking in all the butchering terminology, the
everything, yeah,
roasting
everything
and
we
the
can.
cutting and the okay?
If you've got some more, you're welcome to chip in at
I'm
any
sure
time.
they'll-
If you wanna
they'll
butcher
come-
this,
You want to take some jabs at us, then you can.
No, not at all.
Video. Our social media links are down below in the description. Please give us a follow, reach out to us, send us a message, tell us, hey, listen, I really don't like your hair, cut your hair, or Luke, your face is so red, your face is so red.
I was burnt this week, okay?
Is it fires or is it another
It's
kind of
everything.
burn?
Unfortunately, I don't have like a lighting rig here, so we couldn't tone it down
Yeah.
and hide
Unfortunately,
it.
there's no beauty on this filter.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So quite an eventful start of a podcast. We're 6 minutes in and I haven't even started talking about cars, which is also fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's
if you want to talk about life, Luke, you've had a tough week.
I've had a rough week. This week we've been fighting fires. We've been cutting down trees 10 o'clock at night due to the wind blocking roads. We've been enjoying late nights that should have ended a lot earlier, but
your second week of work.
Second week of work.
Hey, enjoy it while you can.
That's true.
Yeah,
I'll enjoy it while I can. I'm taking some notes.
The podcast
Really
butcher
told you guys that, my 4 o'clock nap to the sound of the end. Normally put some motorsport on and
exactly, and then you take the nap for that. Yeah.
Wake up just in time for football at 6:30. Anyway.
So before we dive into the knowledge and experiences of our guest, the podcast butcher, I just want to share to you a useful tip of the week. So I was driving here before I picked up Luke, and I listened to a segment on the radio where a guy was talking about automatic transmissions, and he said that it's not enough to put your car in park on a steep, slope, downhill or uphill. Rather put up your handbrake also. So kids, put up your handbrake.
I always get so frustrated because I get in the car with a previous car now. You get in and then the dad's parked the car in first gear and the handbrake's up, and then I start the car and the car does this little thing and then I have to take it out and put it in neutral. But it's a good lesson because I've had an experience where the brakes failed and the car was rolling, but luckily I was still in the car when that happened, so I was able to stop it. But
I was watching something similar, and I don't remember which car it was about, but basically they were saying that if you don't put up the handbrake and you just put it in park, I think I was watching something about a Jaguar XK8, and the guy was doing a little, I watch a few little clips here and there, as most of us do. He was talking about the J-gate on the XK8, and he was saying, don't just leave your XK8 or your XK in. My Daimler is very similar, same gearbox, same engine, and don't just leave it in park because it's working, on the car. Rather just use the handbrake.
Yeah, so it is there for a reason.
Nice. That's nice if you have a handbrake. I have owned cars that didn't have a handbrake and were missing gears, but I might get into one of those stories. I'm sure
we'll move on to that in a bit.
So that is the common tip for the week. Also, if you find yourself that the car is in park and you can't get it out of park, find the owner's manual. That is in the car. You can also read that. Owners should actually be reading that if they don't know much about their car, which is important. Okay, gain knowledge. But I think you can start off to start off the more interesting stuff.
Yeah, to get not get serious, but just to get in line of what we're actually doing. But anyway, the point was, I think a good place to start would be to say, because you are a butcher by trade, and you obviously like cars, and I suppose working on them as well a bit.
Limited. I didn't really grow up in an environment like many other guys did, where Dad was in the garage working on the car. My dad is a chartered accountant. That doesn't mean he can't be a car guy, but he's very much not a car guy. So he's like the opposite. In any job, still to this day. Well, these days I'd get a call. So these days I'll get a call, which I do for most things. My dad's 80 now. Richard, the key's not working on the car, or this or that, or in fact, that's his car outside, which I've recently taken over from him because I had to visit our friend Stephen Wern recently at Master Panel Beaters because all 4 sides of the bumpers were, not looking that good. So I didn't grow up in that kind of environment. So I missed out on having a grandfather or father. So I've come to that side of things very late in life. But I think when you get a bit older, you learn that you don't know much about most things. So you're more open to learning things or things you're interested in.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to learn anything they're not. Perfect example. When you're at school, if you're not interested, then
you won't necessarily do good in something.
So it's not really an age thing. If you're interested in something, and of course, I'm very interested in cars, and I have a lot of for example, British cars. And unfortunately for us, there aren't a lot of experts around in the older British cars, and some of this stuff has become almost like a bit of a lost art. You know, when it comes to how many guys in Cape Town can, you know, tune SU carbs?
Yeah, it's not. It's very
it's
few
like
and far.
basically none.
Yeah.
Or maybe one or two.
Yeah.
You know, so I've decided that, you know, best to attempt to educate myself with a lot of people that I've met who are far more knowledgeable than I am, and luckily people like Stephen who are very willing to help you and share their knowledge, because they did grow up in that environment.
Yeah, I was about to say you definitely, but like it developed later, and I suppose it's fantastic now because I assume you enjoy it, obviously. Cause
I enjoy it. I mean, this is the garage is like, I do a few little restoration jobs myself. I mess up the occasional thing, trying to do some good, you know, and learn
through mistakes and stuff. So I mean, it's part of the process.
And you know, it's exciting at, you know, in middle age, which is where I am, to learn new things that you are interested in. And you know, so we laugh about it because a very, very well known and good mechanic that I know, he likes to say to me when he gives me back a car that he worked on for me, which is usually an Alpha, or tell some people who it is. He says, and Richard, he says, no fiddling. So that's become like a bit of an in-joke with certain people. And I said, well, I was fiddling, and I either I dropped something in the engine, or that happened recently. Or else I actually discovered something which nobody else had discovered on the car, and actually led to the car actually being in better condition afterwards.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're going to have to stop me from talking. I can talk a lot.
No, it's fine.
No, the point of having a guest is us not talking.
Exactly, yeah. But just to give the viewers as well, but for those of you watching on YouTube, with everything that we have behind us, would you mind just running us through of what...
Your collection.
Yeah, if
I know there are some cars not here.
Well, they're not all here. Today we've got 2 MGs. We've got I don't know if the camera can see it clearly. There's a 1963 MG Midget, which is a bit of a special one. We might get stuck on one car. No, I'm joking. It's a special one because it's what they call a 1.5. It's right in between the 1 and the 2. The Series 2 came in 1964 January.
So is this like a facelift? Would you call it a facelift?
That's the modern terminology.
Okay.
Yeah. So were they doing facelifts in 1963? Yeah,
would you call it a facelift?
Not very well, but
yeah, they tried to.
Not
at
very
least.
well, but they were.
Yeah.
So this was built in October '63. So it had the rear suspension and the front disc brakes, which the Series 2 had. Otherwise, it's a Series 1. So basically, the car was only made for 3 months.
Yeah.
And when I first saw the car, it was red. It looked very good, but it was a full restoration, bare metal, right down to the metal. And of course, when the paint came off, the horrors came out, and I think it was about an 18-month restoration.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't go like standard on the car. It's got a slightly different interior, and it's got a very beautiful color, which I especially had mixed by somebody, which is called it's called Ice Blue Pearl. Which is very much an American color. It's not an original MG color, but it is really a beautiful color.
No, it's like a sky blue sort of color.
It's got the pearl in it, so when you put it on a classic car, the pearl just actually makes it fit a little bit better.
Definitely.
Than rather, like...
It gives it also a much more modern look.
Like a Ford blue, or it's a little bit... It's been
pops a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, to go into too much detail, basically I had all the green taken out of it, out of the paint. And these guys did it on a computer, a very nice setup they had. And then they said, well, that's your color. And it's in your name, and that's cool.
So if you have another project and you need the color again, then you have it.
Yeah,
basically.
well, that was the idea. It hasn't come up. And then up top there's also a special car. That's an MGC. I know from the back it just looks like a regular MGB. nothing against the MGB, the classic MG sports car that basically conquered America for MG. But that's the C, also only built for 2 years. That's a 1968. Sure. Only built for 2 years because it was so unpopular and got slated by the press because it's got the same engine as a Healy 3-litre.
Okay.
So it's a 3-litre straight six. This is what's called a Downton conversion, which makes it a little bit more special, which I won't go into detail about. And it's only made for 2 years, and it's a touring car. So when the press drove it, firstly, they didn't inflate the tires in front to the correct pressure, and it's got a massive engine in there. So the thing didn't handle it all.
Yeah.
I mean, when I got it, it had a little Momo steering wheel.
Okay.
And so I got a
proper
original, because you need like a bus-sized steering wheel with that car. So that's also only produced for 2 years, which means, generally less numbers.
Quite a limited run.
Higher value.
Yeah.
The guy that owned that was a British guy who had one in England and one in South Africa.
Oh, wow.
He lived in Sedgefield.
Yeah.
And he was, like when you're speaking to someone who's the owner of the car, and you can just tell, like, wow, this guy is so pernickety about, this oak is so pernickety about everything on this car. And then also I had the good fortune to know the person that had worked on his car in George.
Yeah.
Because I know his son, we're on the same WhatsApp group. So I phoned him and I asked him about the car.
What's the history?
And, so I take, once a year, I take about 2 weeks off for annual vacation, which is usually in Plettenberg Bay. And then I, unfortunately, if I'm sitting with too much time on my hands, then the phone goes on to Gumtree, and I found that on like the 14th page of Gumtree.
That is commitment.
Funny,
and the guy that was selling it, the people from certain MG clubs were trying to lowball him on the car, and he knew what he had with the car.
Yeah, so
it's in amazingly good condition. It runs beautifully, and it's a special edition, the Downton conversion. They call it a stage 2 conversion, which is mainly the you get a stage 3 and a stage 2, and this is the twin carb with a modified exhaust, and the stage 3 is 3 carbs. And for those people, you can't see it from here, to identify the MGC from the MGB, it's got that little hump in the bonnet for the extra carb.
Okay.
But it's a touring car. But it's got a sound which, it's just music to my ears.
It's unique to that car, and it's so special because
it's the whole. The sound of it is special. Yeah, it's that's what it is for me. That's why you see a lot of different cars here, because it's the experience of the car. There must be something special about the car.
Yeah,
it can't just be the run of the mill of that particular brand. It's got to be something that it's personal, that appeals to me. And right now I've reached a point where I can say, luckily, and there's going to be people see this, they're going to laugh their heads off. But people that know me, that I'm actually very cool and I'm chilled, and I'm not going online, and I'm staying away from it. Like many years ago, I used to play a bit of guitar, and I banned myself from going to guitar shops.
Yeah.
Because I would go there and fall in love with something.
And you would just...
And ultimately, I ended up with about 10 of them. I think 10 or 11 guitars.
Sure.
And now my niece has most of them. Because she plays in a band. And
okay.
It's like, so she's just kind of usurped part of the guitars, which is cool because...
it's finding a new life, because I suppose by that time you weren't using them that much. So.
Yeah, but it's a similar thing. Like I'm staying off the internet so that I don't find something that kind of catches my attention. And I've got a few projects ongoing with cars that I have bought that need some work. And the whole idea is to just generally, slowly look after them, let them progress, and improve them. As the longer I have a car, I think most people that know me in the classic car fraternity would know if they get to buy a car from me, there's almost going to be nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Because if I've had it for, and the 944 is a good example at the back, the 944 Cabriolet. That car came with a fair amount of surprises for me when I bought it.
Yeah.
Also a rare car. Only made it also for a couple of years because it's a bit of a oddball.
Porsche tried something new with it.
It's an odd car, you know, and like everyone that would look at the car and say, like, you know, like, why did Porsche send these cars to Holland to some other company to do these soft tops for them? And, you know, it's just an oddball car. It's a 3-liter 4-cylinder car. I mean, how many of those?
Yeah, where would you find something like that?
You know, and so it's different, and also only made. That's a 92. It's the last year of production, and so basically, I think you guys should talk a bit because have I not finished? I'm not finished.
Yeah.
Then, okay, 911. It's a 997. It's a 2007 911. Which at a certain stage I decided I have to know what it is to own a 911 and I have to experience a 911.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's not my favorite car.
Okay.
And
that's fine.
Basically...
It's a dagger to Martin's heart, but...
Yeah,
that's all right.
Martin, you know what? It's some cars, when you've experienced them, you like them and you appreciate them and you respect what's good about them, but you don't love them. So me, that's my relationship with the 911. It's a great car. Yes, it's got some drawbacks. The cabriolet, the flexing in the body,
it's a bit heavier.
The hollow doors, it drives me insane. I don't enjoy it. You know, put your foot down and you get that immediacy, and it's a manual. I'm not
how a car should be.
I've driven a PDK. Not for me. After this, there's no comparison. I've driven a much later model 911. A friend of mine bought one and was like, "Oh no, take it for a drive, see what it's like." And it was for me, it was pedestrian. I'm not a flappy pedal guy. Hate it.
Okay.
Another car I've got, which has got them, and it's also got a shift here. And we were talking earlier about the traction control.
Yeah.
So I've got an F-type Jaguar, a coupe, most beautiful car, magnificent car. Whoever the genius was that did the ergonomics and the design, put the traction control button directly behind the manual shift.
Yeah.
So I don't have massive hands. I mean, I would say like I've got very normal size hands.
Very average hands, I can confirm.
If you had 10% more than an average hand, and you shift there, you switch off your traction control, and you don't know.
Immediate fun.
And it actually happened to me once in an emergency that I was really rushing to get somewhere. Had to do with I had to pick my daughter up from school. She wasn't well, and it turned out I had to take her to hospital. And luckily, and I pulled away from work, and as I pulled away, I switched off the traction control by mistake, and I nearly lost it around the first bend that I took in a slip road near to where I work.
Yeah.
And then it kind of came to light. And so next to the traction control button is like the canned exhaust button.
Oh yeah.
So who cares if you switch that on by mistake?
Yeah, that's fine.
Who cares?
Yeah.
But you can literally,
that's what you want to do.
You can switch the car off and you can lose it completely.
I've got two things about that car that I absolutely hate.
Okay.
The one is the indicator sound. When you sit in a robot, it sounds like you're watching a movie. You're watching the Hurt Locker and the Oaks trying to defuse a bomb, and you're sitting there like it makes you anxious, like the bomb's about to go off, you know, because it's a Ford. I think they got it at nothing against a Ford Icon. But I think
that's where they got it from.
A guy I know's got one. It's the same sound.
Hey, but listen, like I actually know what you're talking about because I've been in like quite new Nissans or like Korean cars.
Oh yeah,
the indicators drive you crazy. It's not like it's like a. I'm like, are you busy being in a trance music?
If you should take two wooden blocks and you slap it against each other, it's got that knock sound. It literally sounds like it's going.
Daimler, that's got the Ford knock indicator. The Daimler 8's got that.
And then
kill the Ford knock indicators.
That's enough engine noise.
Interesting car. I know it's outside. BMW engine.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Ford components. comes from a generation of BMW engines where if you let it stand for any length of time, the oil drains out the lifters.
Oh my gosh.
It's an automatic and basically a mission of note, which certain unsuspecting people have had to go through because I took the car to them for work. I won't mention names. And it stood there and then it just wouldn't start.
Yeah.
And apparently it's a 1998 car. That whole generation of these engines, it's just BMW V8 engine.
Yeah.
Awesome engine.
Yeah, but you just have to drive it
when it's working. Yeah.
So
that would be the sound to the afternoon nap.
You bring out the F-Type. It's a brand new car. It's came off a prototype, brand new car. You have the world of choice. The world of choice where you put these buttons. If there wasn't anywhere else to put that button, and there was no other indicator sound available to them, okay.
But just
that is the only two things. And then somebody I know is very knowledgeable, took it for a test drive recently somewhere else, not my car, and had a criticism of the steering, that the steering felt very, it was like self-balancing. And personally, when I drive a modern car, that's my expectation. I mean, okay, so now this is the latest car that I bought.
In the best color I've seen a car.
It's
beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Is it British Racing Green or is it another color?
It's Pinot Verde.
Of course,
Pine
it's Italian.
green,
Sorry,
pine green.
It's Italian.
Yeah, and it is the original color of this car.
It's stunning.
This car
It is
was not
beautiful.
always. And I'm not a resale red guy. For me, it makes the car far more interesting. And the beauty of this car, well, one of the beautiful things about it, is that nobody knows what it is. So when you're driving traffic, Oak rolls down the window and says, "Is that a kid car?"
Yes.
And I
That's
say,
a punch.
but this is the kind of thing. Or is that a Maserati? Is it a Lamborghini? And people don't know what it is. Lamborghini would be a good guess.
Yeah.
Because the design
I was about to say, it's quite...
is Bertone. So it's the one and only Bertone Ferrari that there is. And it was kind of, I don't want to go on to the whole history, but it's one of the things that I find interesting about the car. It's designed by Marcello Gandini, Bertone House, same designer as Lancia Stratos, Countach, Mura.
Sure.
Oh,
okay.
that is your
and
classics.
so I made it my mission. I have to own a Gandini designed car because I'm into design. I like that about cars. It's a big thing for me in the car. It's not all about performance. For me,
you have to walk out into the garage and see the car and be like, "Damn, this is stunning."
No, well, there are many cars. A lot of guys talk about like when you've had a car for a while, it's your car, and you literally walk out and you go, I got to take a picture of this. It's just beautiful.
It not takes your breath away in a sense because it's so unique.
When you don't get tired of looking at your own car and admiring the beauty of the car, the brilliance of the design, then that's it's actually a very cool feeling.
Yeah.
And I've got numerous cars like that, and other people, like everyone's got their favorites and whatever, which is good. This car, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was to enter into a certain V8 racing format that Enzo Ferrari gave his son, Alfredino, the job of basically bringing out this Dino range because they were going to race the cars.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, Pininfarina didn't have a body ready for them, a design ready for them, and they ended up at Bertone.
Okay.
So somebody I know has got a Lamborghini Urraco, which
someone nobody knows.
Yeah,
Car nobody knows.
No, it's a beautiful car.
I can imagine.
Stunning, and his is this like really like an orangey red color, and I dig orange. I like orange for sports cars.
And for Lambos.
I don't mind yellow.
But not on a Ford Focus.
That orange, no, but that was like, that was like a 1980s luminous.
That doesn't
work. Very classy Italian.
Yeah. There's a way to do it.
There's a difference.
It's not a triple layered deep.
Maybe before your time, but there was a show called The Persuaders with Roger Moore, became James Bond, and Tony Curtis drove a Dino 246. and Roger Moore drove an Aston Martin Vantage, and that color stuck with me. And they called it. It had like some tropical name, the color, which I can't remember exactly.
But just that
so
good
this,
orange.
This is a special car. I think they only made about 3,000 of them worldwide.
Sure.
This one is in superb condition. It was restored by Carlo Viglietti with some help with some other people. And in its lifetime, it had done some mileage and then ended up being red. Yeah. But this is the original color, and it's not the original interior that's been redone. And the first time I saw it was about 4 years ago, and the owner was a Ferrari collector, and he had, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 of them. And somebody I know, who's the secretary of the Ferrari Club in Cape Town, he was kind of looking after the car for the guy, and before purchasing the car, I had a lot of dialogue with him because he had driven it extensively and he knew the car very well. So, you know, if you're buying a car, obviously it doesn't matter what car you're buying, you know, that little bit of inside knowledge makes a big difference, because you can buy a car that's a special car of a you know, great vintage, whatever it's going to be, but you can get a real dog. Yeah. And that's happened to me.
Yeah.
That's why that MG Midget had to be completely restored.
It's
because it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't pay a lot of money for it, to be honest, but it ended up being a full restoration, and it's still like far from original or complete. But I absolutely love driving. It's basically like a bathtub on wheels. It's a 1098cc motor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just
fun. It's it's. Every time you drive somewhere, it's an experience.
Yeah,
you don't just drive somewhere.
Yeah.
It's
I can't understand now with all these, because every single car like that you have is you can correct me if I'm wrong in saying, but like you won't necessarily buy cars that give the same experiences, because each one is so unique. Like saying driving that's like a bathtub, and with a Porsche now, everything is so different and so unique to its own. And
I ended up in a situation with basically talking about. When you've got something, it's like, for example, I fancied a Mercedes 280 SE. You know?
Yeah, I do also.
I just, there's something about that car that appeals to me, and I've worked out where a lot of the appeal of certain cars came from in my life, because, as I said, I didn't grow up in this mechanical environment. My dad had some very cool cars, very cool in his day. You know, he had some real not so cool cars too. Yeah. I mean, I learned to drive on. My dad went through a rough patch, and I think it was a City Golf and a Renault 9, which I'm sorry was an interesting shaped car, but not a great car. You know, and so there was a Renault 5 and a Renault 9, and there was a City Golf.
Okay.
But he had like some pretty cool cars. He had a 280 ZX, and he had a Pontiac very long ago, and he had a Toyota. He had a Toyota Celica convertible.
Wow!
And
sure. Okay.
It was, and it had spoke mags. It was the most beautiful car. And when he sold it, I was.
You know what I mean? That's
because he had it for a very short period of time, and I think he had it for like 3 or 4 months, and I was so upset.
Yeah.
And when he bought the 280 ZX, he had a choice, I remember, between interesting Alpha GTV6 and the 280 ZX. And he test drove the GTV6 and he was scared of it.
Wow, sure, okay.
He was too scared of
to actually go for that then, yes.
So he bought the 280 ZX, which was a very cool car. So, okay, so talking about cars that are like similar in nature. So I've got a S-Type Jaguar, a 1968 S-Type Jaguar. I'm sorry it's not here. Beautiful car, very good condition. It had an interesting conversion. It was converted to a 5-speed manual gearbox from the 4-speed and overdrive. So it's got like an extra
Okay.
If I'm correct, so not too long ago, I also drove a MGC, but a GT. So the fastback shooting, if you want to call it like a shooting brake hatchback kind of.
Did you drive the V8?
No, so the 3-liter straight 6 with the 4-speed overdrive also. So does this also have the overdrive?
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then your shift is straight up first, straight down second,
Yeah.
and then third and fourth, which is a bit different.
Yeah.
No, it was an interesting
Which
gearbox
is
to
cool.
get used to.
Yeah, I mean, it's quirky and unique.
Gated gearbox here is first down to the left.
Dogleg gearbox.
Dogleg gearbox.
Yeah. So, which...
Yeah.
It's
interesting.
It's, for me...
That's fine.
When you've been driving it for... do you want to check I'm still
Connected.
Yeah, we're still going.
It takes... I mean, like when you start driving for the first 5 minutes, then it's like, okay, I got to like get my mind into this gearbox. But then, like, once you go, then you...
Otherwise, you might just shift one of your most precious cars.
No. It's actually the gated box is very hard to do.
The intention with the dogleg gearbox was because you're probably going to drive, when you drive your car spiritedly, probably between second and third for the most of your drive, and just to make it a bit of an easier shift
from that going,
making it a dogleg gearbox. So that was the intention originally. But anyway, sidetracking back to the S-Type.
One more story is that
another sidetrack.
Another sidetrack. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, maybe after a bit of a big night. For me, it's like after being 50 years old. Like you're driving in your car, and your phone is like on Bluetooth, and then you finish the call and you press the start-stop button. It's happened to me once, and it nearly happened the other day again.
So like,
to end the call.
I'm waiting for that.
Luckily, nothing happens.
Okay. Dad, if you're watching, I'm waiting with the Discovery. We'll see if that happens as well. But luckily, there's massive buttons on the wheel for that.
It's because on that particular car, it's got a start-stop button, and when you're talking on the phone, it's like a press on the dashboard like that to end the call. Like
okay.
So,
I doubt we'll do that with the car, but I can imagine that is not a very good thing to go through.
You're very happy that they engineered it not to do anything when you've actually done that, while you're cruising along in the car.
Also, just to mention, when we spoke about the irritating placement of buttons and how the sound of the indicators work, and I was just thinking in my head, like, take the F-Type for instance. So the head engineer of Jaguar, they were busy designing the F-Type. They were like 98% complete, and there was these like few things to still do on the car, and they were like, James from finance, why don't you come and put in the indicators? Why don't you come and place the buttons? Like, sorry, we're done. We're going to the pub now.
I disagree with you, Martin. This is like a genius that knows more than all of us.
And he's just decided,
I'd like to meet this oak because I'd like to meet the guy that chose the indicator sound and the guy that put that button.
The ergonomics designer.
This must be a very highly qualified person.
Yeah, surely.
They're not just going to hand it over to anybody because everything's been designed.
I mean, the interior of the car, otherwise
it's a brand new car.
Yeah.
So it's not
no. There's no excuse.
It was a new model.
Yeah, the interior of the car, I love the interiors of this car and the way it's set up and everything, but it's just that little...
Yeah, I mean, it's got some quirky things like that thing that bar
that handle for the passenger.
I use it occasionally.
Yeah,
so.
it comes in handy. Everything is in its place except for
a
wee little man.
Occasion, when I went on my vacation last year, I drove it up to Plettenberg Bay, the F-Type.
Yeah, nice.
And
what a drive.
that's, I drove a friend of mine with me who's, let's just say, a bit of a Miss Daisy when it comes to my driving, because I promise you I don't drive fast.
Yeah.
But like if I get up to 60 in k's an hour in my Mini, because he's been in that Mini with me before, the oak is not happy. And we got into, let's just say, an open stretch of road, and he actually said, okay, Richard, let's see what this thing can do. And just the sound of it, and I didn't go mad.
Yeah.
I think I took it up to about 180,
which
is uphill.
And the car doesn't
sounding
struggle to
really
get there.
good. And when we got to the top of the hill, he said, keep going. I said, no, it's enough,
Yeah.
And my mission is to actually try and drive for the first time ever on my annual vacation with no fines.
Yeah.
Which... Okay, still haven't got that right.
But
working.
We're getting there. That's how we improve.
Hopefully we go this January. We'll wait and see. But I generally, in the last few years, have had and I realize that when it comes time to register the cars, firstly, on the way to Plet, you go past George and Sedgefield, and that's pretty much classic car country,
Yeah.
I have not managed to go on this vacation without buying a car yet.
Wow.
So it's been, the first January was, I think it was Alpha Spider. I've got a 2-liter 1983 Spider with the rubber bumpers, which, the Alpha snobs, I don't agree. It drives much better than the earlier models. Love that car. That sound and the experience of driving it. Don't love parking it. This one as well. The 2 Italians in my collection, if I could call it that. No. This one I had to do a few. I had to park. I drove it to work today because it needed petrol. Because last Sunday I took it for a drive. And as with many Italian cars, when I got it, the petrol gauge was stuck on empty, and it had a full tank.
Okay.
And then I sent it in to someone to fix it, and then it promptly got stuck on full. So I then did my calculations before I went for my drive on Sunday.
Okay.
And ended up pushing the car on just opposite the lagoon for about 150 meters.
Sure.
And to the little slip road. And then I phoned my wife and I said, look, there's a big 25-liter can, there it is, in the garage. Can you bring it for me? I'm just down the road. So then I said, if you're going to get stuck and run out of petrol, do it 2 Ks from home.
Okay.
Which was
that's a benchmark.
I promise you, I did a U-turn by the N7 because there was some thing with a truck there. You know what? Stuff that. I'm going to go in that direction rather on my drive.
Yeah.
And so I came right past my house, luckily. But if it was that side,
you wouldn't have.
But my calculations for this engine were a little bit out. So I worked out how many times have I driven it, how far did I drive it, and I was
a little bit.
I was out.
Yeah.
But good exercise. But parking, no power steering, small little steering wheels, heavy engine, mid-engine thing.
It's making me think. I had to park my brother. He's got a 1966 Series 2 Land Rover, and I had to parallel park in Cape Town, but on an incline coming down and reversing up with that car. And the
reversing up.
I had to reverse into the parking spots and coming down, but up the hill with that car in the clutch. That's about this much give, and the gears and stuff. It was an absolute nightmare. Eventually got it, but it's just everything. You think the handbrake's going to go and the handbrake's down here, so you're trying this and the steering wheel is just about yay big. So I can only imagine as well with this.
I'm going to tell you a funny story. Okay.
Please do.
One of the first classic cars that I owned, I actually bought for my business. So when we started the business, we had one van, and then I kind of said to myself, well, what happens if we get busy? I had this, what happens if we get busy? We're going to need something else to deliver. And I had no bucks. And I ended up buying, and I'm not lying to you, a 1950s, I don't remember the year exactly, Morris Minor, which had no reverse, no handbrake, and no brakes. And it was black.
What's the car?
It was black.
Great.
It was black.
The rolling chassis.
I called it Vader.
Okay.
Because it looked like Darth Vader's helmet.
There's no stopping him.
The head chef from the Cullinan came to visit me the other day, and we were reminiscing. He says, I remember you rocking up in that black Morris Minor with the front seat taken out and all the meat we put in the front seat. And I was working out of Belleville in those days.
Yeah.
And so when I used to go uphill, I used to say, my wife always laughs at this story. I used to say, go Vader, go Vader. And then it would be in the center line on the N1, and all the traffic is just going past me like this, and I'm coming in like 40, 50 k's
trotting along.
This chair's perfect with the tires for the motion.
Yeah.
And then when I would be coming down like Tiger Big Hill, stop Vader,
stop Vader.
Go Vader, go stop Vader, stop.
Command, that car, and then you're talking, and then I learned a trick in San Francisco. I was in San Francisco, and I learned a trick because I used to go and deliver in Clerve Street in Cape Town, and I had no handbrake and I had no reverse. So I used to turn the wheels into the pavement as they do everywhere in San Francisco. Because on those steep hills, it's law there.
Yeah.
You have to turn the wheels and basically roll the car into the pavement.
And that acted as the stop.
Yeah. And so then I had to find someone. Hey, Brew, can you help me and give me a push out? And then I'd be on my way again. So you had 5 stops in Clerve Street. to like do this.
Yes, like
that's some skill.
That's not an easy road to meander.
No, it wasn't an easy road at all. But the other thing, that the thing was pitch black, and it was flipping January, and I used to panic that the meat was actually going to be cooked before it reached the customer.
In the black car, everything is just...
It could go no faster. And then one day, the ultimate nightmare, I was delivering at the Glen Country Club. And it was peak season in Cape Town. Camps Bay was hectically busy. And I ended up coming out of the club. There's a steep hill there. And I was balancing the clutch. And I had no handbrake. And I'm balancing this. And I just start smelling clutch, boy.
Oh, no.
And I've got, I think it was a Mercedes in front of me and something else behind me. People like, nice car. And I was like, well, if this guy doesn't go, if he can't get into the traffic stream, which was very busy, it wasn't their fault. In the next 10 seconds, I have to make a decision. I have to drive into the guy in front of me, or I have to roll back into the guy behind me. I don't know. That was the decision I had to make. And luckily, the guy pulled away, and what a nightmare.
Yes,
so I'll never forget that.
So you do intend on buying another Morris anytime soon?
Well, I did. I bought a second one. I think I bought the second one more not for deliveries. The first one was bought for deliveries, and the second one I bought, and then I actually sold it to someone. Somebody wanted to buy it for a photo shoot. So I needed. It's funny because I didn't get paid until about 20 years later, when he did. He actually did the metal work on the MG for me. And I said, remember that blue Morris Minor you never paid me for? I'm
cashing
it
in
off
now.
the bill. Because
it's the right way.
He's a mate of mine.
But I'm just saying,
he never settled me that money. So
20
years later. So
blessing in disguise.
We're talking about cars that are similar. Listen to this for similar. So I've got the S-Type. So then I kind of talked myself out of the Mercedes because it's like similar kind of car in size and the way it drives and all the rest of it. Although I would be quite confident that an S-Type handles a lot better than the Mercedes, because it's got the same suspension as an E-Type. So it's got exactly the same independent suspension. But then I have three very similar cars. I have a Jaguar XJ Series 1 XJ6 manual.
Lekker.
And then I have this. It's basically an XJ shape, the Daimler V8, much later generation. And then this year's car, while on vacation, totally not my fault. Staying off the internet.
Never your fault.
Never. At the pool.
All the parameters were in place.
Staying away. Get a text from a guy I know in Cape Town. I saw this car for sale, knowing that it's a car that I kind of had a passion for and was after. And you must remind me to text you some pictures if people don't know
what you're gonna,
because they're not here. And I got a 1975 Daimler Coupe, which is the two-door XJ6. There's only one in South Africa.
I think I saw it when we were
that was the one that was at Stevens'
workshop,
place. For some work.
Yes,
and
that car is
really that's a project car because unfortunately it has been, as many cars have been, through hands that didn't do great work on it.
I don't know what they're doing necessarily, and they just
they
butcher it.
I warned you, I can talk a lot. And if you
they butcher it. Well done.
You want to hear a funny story?
I'm ready.
About the 944.
Try me.
Right. So when I bought the 944, the guy that sold it to me I said, okay, so I noticed it doesn't have the original radio. No, the original radio is long gone. And I said, not a biggie. After I owned the car, it started like, I wonder if I can find the original radio. I mean, sure, but how hard can it be to find an original Porsche radio? I mean, they made lots of these cars generally.
It's a German
they put
car.
the same radio in there. What's it going to be? It could be a Pekka, or it could be a... Anyway, to cut a very long story short, because it's a story that sums up a lot of things about owning classic cars. I've got a few funny stories. I'll tell you the story about the Spider, but anyway, let's stick to the 944. So, I look all over the internet, and the only radios I can find are like Porsche radios, which are ridiculously expensive, like $9,000 for this radio.
That's the price of a Morris.
Yeah, no, that's two Morris.
Two Morris.
No, the one I paid 4 and the one I paid 5.
Wow.
And then the guy that sold it to me works for me now.
Oh, okay, great.
And he said to me, you know what, I overcharged you. I paid 2.5.
It was
he actually admits it the other day. We had a good laugh about it.
He turned. Oh wow.
So guys, think about investments.
I was pretty inexperienced when it came to classic
cars or you buy a radio.
Yeah, that's 20 years ago. I had a lot to learn.
Wow, that's interesting.
So I can't find anything on the international website. So I thought, all right, well, let's Gumtree, let's have a crack. What do I find? There's a guy who's restoring a Mercedes. This is all on the adverts. And he's got the spare radio from the Mercedes because he's putting in a new, more modern style deck, whatever.
Yeah.
I look it up. This exact deck is not the one they brought out in South Africa, but it is the one that they put in a 944 in the UK. Good enough for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
$500 on Gumtree.
Wow. I mean.
Right, okay. I'm having this thing where I'm saying to myself, I must be the luckiest guy on the planet. I must be.
Because there's no other way. I mean,
what are the? I'm trying to work. This is like 1 in a gazillion. I mean, this is unbelievable odds that I found this radio. And I went to Tiger Valley, and I met this gentleman in the parking lot. We had a very nice chat because he restores and he has Mercedes. And it was a Sunday. He had been to church. When he finished church Sunday, I just drive. And anyway, so I got the radio, and I went to a guy in Montague Gardens and said, I want you to put this car, the original radio back. He says, but, Richard, why don't you, I'll tell you what, I'll put all the connections there for you. But why don't you, there's an amplifier in there, put a modern deck in with Bluetooth and whatever. Yeah. You've got the connections there, keep it in the car. Whenever you want to, you can put in the original radio. And I thought, you know what, that's good logic, it's good thinking.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I said, all right, I'll buy a deck, a nice deck, and put the deck in. Phone rings. Bad news. The amplifier is not working. So I've bought the deck.
Okay.
All right.
It's done.
Okay. In for penny, in for pound. Okay, I'll put in a new amplifier. Right. Put in the new amplifier. Go and pick up the car. I've booked it in for its first. I just got the car.
Yeah.
Right. I knew nothing about it. You know what? I'm going to send it to Porsche and let them check this car out thoroughly.
Yeah.
I think it was booked in on the Thursday, on the Monday, or whatever it was, and I was going to a golf day. So I thought, it's got a nice sized boot. I'm going to put the golf clubs in another thing that I don't get around to doing much of anymore. But put the clubs in the boot and go to the golf day. Off I go. Start getting a smell, petrol smell. In one city, I get out the car. The petrol is just streaming out of this car.
Oh, my word.
Yes. Cut a long story short. When the people put the original amplifier in, not the one that I put in, but the one that he took out, they drilled right through the boot into the petrol tank. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm driving this Molotov cocktail, and the petrol's streaming out because I'm the luckiest oak in the world that I found this radio. And that's classic car ownership for you. So, so then I phoned them at Porsche. I'm on the way there. My car's booked in for a service on Monday. I'm leaving it with you with the bloody petrol streaming out of the car. So I get there. They were actually very helpful.
Yeah.
And so then it turned out that to get to the petrol tank in that car, you've got to take out the gearbox.
Oh,
that's the issue.
Yeah. And
just everything.
So then I said, look, okay, I still didn't know whether it was the person I took it to in Montague Gardens. So when the petrol tank came out, I went with my tape measure and to measure the holes to see if it's the new amp or the old amp. That caused a problem. And it listen, I didn't think so. The guy is the owner of the shop. He did the job himself, and he was amateur. So I didn't think it was him. But whoever owned the car and drove it. So you get a car like that, you're the 5th or 6th owner of that car. And there've been a few horrors on that car, and they've all been sorted out, and it's actually in very good shape at the moment. But so that's the irony of it, and I always laugh about it because I walked around for like a whole day thinking I'm the luckiest guy in the world, because finding that radio, I promise you, I won't tell you what it cost to take that gearbox out at Porsche. And then they did find one or two other things as well. So
small nicks and
my
stuff.
500 Rand radio
turned into
turned out not to be. If I never found it and left that amp in, I never had to deal with. Probably never had to deal with that. But that,
I mean, you can't always tell. Like you said, now if you buy something from some guy and it's been 5 or what owners, they just do stuff and it's not always noted. You get the special that's like real collectors and they have all the papers for every single thing they've done. But then you get other people that just do it. And
I've got a few cars that came with a full file. The S-Type Jaguar, the person I bought it from, I mean, I don't mind saying, I bought it from Frost Brothers in Neisner. Again, I was up.
That's like a dangerous zone.
I mean, just the holiday also.
Just start taking the N1.
Very reputable guy. Norman Frost, very reputable guy. And he put me in touch with the guy that sold it to him, who's a guy named Bill Stafford, who owns Stafford's Fine Foods. He's a chef that owns a food company. Very nice gentleman. I went to see him, and he gave me the original steering wheel.
Wow.
All books that he had, all kinds of stuff. And then I have a few of the cars. It was almost like became a tradition. The first time you drive the car, you must get stuck. Or something must go wrong. So the S-Type, the first time I drove it, I drove it to town, and it was getting a bit hotter, warmer than cars that I was used to. And so I had Bill's number. So I phoned Bill and I said, Bill, I'm driving this car. It's sitting at about so-and-so degrees. Is that normal for this car? He says, yes, it's perfectly normal. It's got an automatic, it's got a Kenlo fan. There it is, the Kenlo fan actually lying right there. Because it's since been improved on. Because the geniuses that installed that fan had the blades blowing the wrong way.
Oh, my.
And the hot air was...
You've got a vacuum instead of a...
Instead of a fan on your radiator. And no experts could find that out except the Italian mechanic, who figured out...
Of all people, the Italians.
Because he's an excellent mechanic. He says, in his Italian accent, I hope, please, he never watches this, Richard is pushing, not pulling. I said, what do you mean, pushing, not pulling? And what he meant was
the fan is rotating.
It's the wrong way around. It was the wrong way around.
Wow.
And so then I phoned this chap, Bill.
Sorry, I just want to say, technically that might be the start to Gordon Murray's fan cars and everything that he does with fans. So
he actually wanted to cool, and now
new innovation.
It was actually sucking and creating ground effects.
I like the car, and I think there's like a Batman element there. Which I wouldn't mind having a kind of a Batman thing going on, a fan in the back of my car.
Why not?
I mean, if you could press if it was like a turbo or whatever, that would be even
jet engine
better,
or something.
But getting back to that story, so I'd phoned Paul. My mind was, I visited my folks, and then I was in Sea Point, and I went down to the beachfront, and promptly around the Winchester Mansions Hotel, white smoke exploded out of the bonnet, and
lovely.
That was the end of. Yeah, it was actually the heater. The white smoke came out of the heater, and that was my first drive in that car. And then another first drive, which is another good story, was the Alpha Spider that I bought.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't said who I bought it from, so I'm not talking anyone down, because it's an excellent car. And I had expectations with an Alpha of numerous electrical and, reputations. I'd never owned one, and I had expectations. Anyway, so my wife and I were in Plettenberg Bay. She was driving her car, and we went up in her car. I bought the car. I went there to look at an MGC, actually. And the MGC that they had there I wasn't happy with, for a variety of reasons. And he didn't want to let me get away, so he told me he had this car that he had owned, and he sold it to a woman in Johannesburg that had restored it, and it was a fantastic photo album of the restoration.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I said to my wife, I said, listen, firstly I drove it from, I don't want to give it away, from close to Plettenberg Bay, about 60 k's to Plettenberg Bay. And I drove it there, and I thought, I don't know this car well enough to drive it back to Cape Town. I'm going to send it down to Cape Town, and we'll drop it off on our way. So we're on our way. It is pouring with rain. I've tested all the electrics. The indicators work, the wipers work, everything works on the car. Awesome. Say to my wife, listen, you drive about 10 minutes behind me. I'll go first, and then we'll drop it off. And then you'll pick me up, and I'm not going to take a chance and drive this car. I don't.
Yeah.
Because I've learned my experience, and it's
just give it some time. And,
like that. I've got one about my Mini as well, which is one of my favorite cars. But anyway, so it's torrential rain. Okay, not a problem. The windscreen wipers are working. We pull out of Plettenberg Bay on the road. It starts coming down. Switch on the windscreen wiper. The one goes flying off the like this. So I stop the car, get out. It's about 40, 50 meters back there. I'm drenched. Get back in the car. It's not so bad because it's on the passenger side. Yeah. Just put the thing up. I've got a wipe. Cool. Get back in the car. Drive away. Second wiper. Off the car. Yeah. Phone my wife. Darling, small problem. She says, what is it? I said, the windscreen wipers have flown off the car. Do you maybe have anything in the car like to tie up my daughter's hair or
just some form of...
So she said, yes, I've got her...
elastic.
Yeah.
The band,
like
they have a name for it.
Yeah.
These things.
Yeah. That's it. Tied the windscreen wipers on. No problem. Drove it back. Took it back to the guys. I put it for the guys, please, man. Can you just
come on.
Can you just put the windscreen?
Honestly, man.
Can you just take care of that for me? Thank you.